Hi, Steve Arterburn here. Welcome to Going Deeper. Thanks for joining me. You know, we're doing this little study of the 12 gifts of life recovery. You can find the other gifts on YouTube. Hope you'll look at them if you like what I say today about this gift number 8. It's the gift of self-control. Now, this little book, it's taken all of or 12 of the things that rise to the top, come to the surface, and become fruit of all the work we do in recovery. We get these gifts. And it's not like we earn them, but as you work the steps, these are some of the things that will emerge. And one of the things that emerges is self-control. And most people get into some kind of recovery because they have lost control in some particular area, and they're not in control of themselves, their situation, or whatever they're responsible for. But there's a little process, a biblical principle that mentions self-control. It's found in 2 Peter 1, 5 through 7. Look at this. It says, make every effort to respond to God's promises. Now let's just stop right there. You know, God's promised us so much if we'll follow Him. But a lot of people, maybe they don't believe the promises are for them. You know, some people are so full of shame, they think God's done with them, and you'll never, ever have a wonderful life here, and they give up on the search, but it's not true. It says this, supplement your faith with a generous provision of moral excellence. So what's that? Well, we need to have faith, right? We need to have faith in the right thing. That's God. We need to have faith that leads us to moral excellence. What is that? That's making good decisions. It is, in a nutshell, doing the next right thing. That's what moral excellence is. So I start by believing that God has like it says in Jeremiah, He has a future for me. He has plans for me. He's promised that for me. He doesn't want to bring about destruction to me. John 10:10 says that it's Satan that wants to steal and rob and destroy, but Jesus wants to give us life to the full. So that's a promise. So believe in that, respond to that, and then with that faith and those promises as our belief and our foundation, then we add to that moral excellence. We do the right thing. And then to moral excellence, we continue to grow in our knowledge of God's truth. And then knowledge with self-control. So what this is saying, it goes on to say, you know, that after self-control, patient endurance, then godliness, brotherly affection, love for everyone. So where it leads to self-control is that you have this faith, and then you make the right choices, moral choices, and then you add to that knowledge, and you have this standard of moral excellence. You continue to grow in the Word, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself with self-control. But you have to do what the Word says. So what does the Word say? It says, do not forsake the gathering together with other believers. In other words, you can't do this alone. James 5:16, confess your sins one to another and pray for each other that you might be healed. The prayers of a righteous man avails much. So we need to be about the business of trusting God, believing God, growing in Him, and not relying on our own wisdom if we want to experience this kind of gift. Proverbs 16:32 says, better to have self-control than to conquer a city. Well, if you have self-control, you can probably conquer a city. One of the worst things in the world, you know, we talk about compulsivity, about being compulsive, a compulsive shopper, gambler, drinker, whatever it is. But there's this other ultion, and it's called being impulsive, or the impulsion that can rob us of all good things. The impulsive person can be just as damaging as the compulsive person. where I just don't have the ability to modulate my behavior or control it whatsoever. And so when we get into recovery, let's just say the old traditional alcoholic that drinks a whole case of beer a day, all of a sudden, through recovery, that person is able to go a day without their hand grabbing for a can or bottle of beer and putting it in their mouth. That is self-control. And maybe they have tried that for 10 years, but then they surrender, they get into a fellowship of other people that are trying to do the same thing. And now all of a sudden they have self-control. One of the things that we have to realize is that about 5% of the stuff I do is probably volitional. About 95% of what I do is unconscious if I'm in a state of despair, addiction, desperation, all this stuff. I don't really know what I'm doing. But when I get into recovery and I start cleaning up my past and being responsible, making it right with other people, all of a sudden I'm starting to be governed by the brain that I know, my conscious brain, making good decisions, not the subconscious or things I'm not conscious of that keep driving me into destructive patterns. So self-control really brings me into the reality that I need to face every day. Now, there's a little problem here. Willpower gets a very bad rap because willpower is never enough for us to go from not being in recovery to being in recovery. Use all the willpower we want. The farther we get into addiction or despair, the less willpower does. And so sometimes people say, well, willpower is worthless. No, it isn't worthless. You need willpower. And willpower is something that kind of fuels self-control. So whereas willpower in a state of, let's just say, addiction isn't enough to help you stop, once you do stop, you want to increase your willpower. Because think about this. Here's a person who has kind of numbed themselves out with drugs. Or every time they hit some kind of anxious moment, stress or pressure, they resort to the drug. Now they get into recovery. Now they've got to face not just the trigger things, but they have to face all of reality. The Bible tells us each person should carry his own load. So here I am, and I've got all this stuff. And every time something is big and huge, I can't go to my old friend to find some relief or to numb myself out. And so I need all the willpower I can have on the other side of recovery so that I can make it through some of those tough times, that I have the willpower to say no and call a friend, my sponsor, somebody else that can help me get through that time without having a total relapse. So willpower is really, really important. It's just not enough to get you into recovery. But afterwards, you need it. And self-control and willpower are brothers and sisters that you're going to need for the rest of your life. Tell you what else you need. You need today. Tomorrow is a place, a time, a land where all your dreams come true, everything gets fixed, all your idealized desires become a reality. That's tomorrow. And tomorrow never comes. But today, well, that's right now. There's no power in a tomorrow that never happens, but there's power in today. And when you think about your life and you go, here's an area I do not have self-control. Why don't you go do something about it? I struggled with my weight all my life. I was telling some people last night, somebody said, you need exercise. And I thought they said, you need extra fries. I mean, that's just the way I operated. I didn't have any self-control. I needed to get help for that. And I did. And I'm so grateful that I did. There are areas of your life that are evidence that you don't have self-control. Tomorrow, it's not going to get fixed. But today has all the power. Now has all the power. And I'm just praying right now that you're going to have the wisdom and the strength and the willpower to make the phone call, to get the help that you need, so that one day you're sitting around thinking, wow, I have self-control. I am not worried about what's going to happen the rest of the day or tomorrow, because today I made the right decision and I did it now. So pick up the phone, call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Let somebody there help you decide what it is you need most right now. I'm praying you won't wait for tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes.